Hi guys, so this is Larissa and I just wanted to share my projects on nymphs, and throughout this project I was just looking to see if nymphs are either considered to be monsters or humans, because they don't at first really appear to be monstrous. Okay, so first off, what are nymphs? Nymphs are typically a supernatural being that looks like a beautiful young maiden. They always are interested in intermingling with mortals or human beings, and often they can be either harmful or helpful to humans. They play usually on the typical gender roles of women. However, they have no familial obligations like women, and furthermore, they are desirable by mortal men because one can feel an intimate bond and feel sensual aura similar to Aphrodite, and also because of their beauty. So nymphs have always been a part of nature. They live in tree stumps, creeks, and the woods, and they furthermore are never near cities, but rather in the rural countryside. When the nymphs encounter humans, it's usually because they have wandered into their natural habitat, not the nymphs going to the humans, and they are symbolically associated with certain places like caves. With caves specifically, they're often a common cult site and home for bees and other nature, and also provide shelter, water source, and are known as to be birthplaces and homes of deities and monsters. So the birth of nymphs, how nymphs came to be. There are two ways to become a nymph. The first is naturally by birth, in which they are the daughters of gods or higher deities like Zeus, G, and the various river gods. The other way is through transformation, in which young maidens die at a young age. It is a myth that young maidens who die from also a broken heart can become nymphs. And so, looking specifically at the ancient looking again back at the Greek origin of the nymphs, they were the daughters of nature gods who also love to dance. They are associated with nature and embedded in the landscape. They were worshipped by the rural and non-elite population that usually lived in the forest area, and they were the inferior female divinities that possessed similar qualities to Aphrodite. Nymphs were worshipped because they controlled certain aspects in nature. An example would be that nymphs lived in streams, provided clean water, and for the mortals. On the flip side, there's consequences to displeasing nymphs, in which they can be harmful. They are known to abduct mortals to fulfill their sexual desire. And so, mortals to be with their nymphs, that they must undergo transformation that often result in the deaths, so that they can be with the nymphs that kidnap them. Another way that nymphs can kill mortals is for displeasing them is by dancing their victims to exhaustion and eventually their death. And it was rumored that young children who die at a young age also were abducted by nymphs to be their playmates. So nymphs kind of disappeared and then re-emerged again during the Romantic era, which is also during the 19th century. A lot of artists and writers became dissatisfied with their harsh reality of city life, which the Industrial Revolution had created, and where there was now factories, overcrowding in cities, and so they looked for escape in reality and turned towards nature and fantasy. And furthermore, revolution of mythical creatures and the reemergence of the nymphs came to be. An example of the reemergence of nymphs can be found in ballet stories, specifically in the story of Giselle. The main character, Giselle, is a young maiden who falls in love with a man who later betrays her, and in her distress she goes mad and dances herself to death, in which she dies of a broken heart and is transformed into a willy or nymph. Willies in this case have very similar characters to nymphs. They were, again, young maidens who died of a broken heart and who loved to dance. They, however, used their love to dance for evil, as they used it in their revenge against mortal men who ever crossed their path. In their revenge, they made men dance to their death, in which they physically experienced the pain and heartache that they felt before they died and became a willy. So just really quickly, I wanted to examine the Giselle in Greek mythology. Both of the stories kind of, really look at nymphs very similarly to be beautiful young girls who have died tragically of broken hearts, and they existed in the forest and were a really part of nature, and they would kill their victims again by dancing them to their death. So back to my argument of looking at, are nymphs human beings? They physically really appear to look like humans as they take on a maiden form, and but they also have emotions that are fueled by their actions, which is their desire to seek revenge, and also they have feelings that are similar to humans. An example would be the attraction and seduction of their victims. They are portrayed to be very childlike, and so I wanted to look at our nymphs monsters. They look like humans, but they function very differently. They are not. They are the supernatural and are immortal. They are either good or bad, and they use these powers just based on, if they want to heal humans, but they also can use it to intermingle with mortals' affairs and cause trouble. So, nymphs, obviously, in their playful nature, can flirt and seduce men to fall in love with them and then kill them later. So I wanted to look at nymphs' femininity and their ties to sexuality. So obviously, all nymphs are only women or young maidens, and they use their physical appearances to their own benefit. They fit the stereotype of woman due to them basing their decisions off of emotions rather than logic. So part of the fear of nymphs could be tied in with the fear of women, which I looked at Barbara Creed's article, The Monstrous Feminine Film, Feminism and Psychoanalysis. Women, due to being ruled by their emotions, can lash out and become this monstrous thing, and their sexuality cannot be contained and is often limitless, which empowers them. And so for nymphs, having that certain degree of power, you can see a reversal of gender roles, which men must become subordinate to their seduction, in which they can no longer dominate women, like in typical society now. So also, I wanted to, of course, look at why nymphs were possibly created. I was thinking because they were used as warnings for people to fear them. They warned men to be careful of the danger of nature, and especially being in the woods, and furthermore, telling them to be careful of women because their beauty can be deceiving and looks aren't always as they seem. Young girls were warned, like in Giselle, to be careful of their actions, and that at the coming of age they are no longer a child where they can dance wildly. And so now they must fulfill their feminine duties of caring for the household and becoming a lady. And so they use that fear to stop them from becoming wild. So in conclusion, I believe that nymphs are the other of the monster. They, like other monsters, do not fit in any category or taxonomy, and they are the hybrid between human and immortal being. They do not look like the typical grotesque monster, and they do not have mutations or alterations of bodily form. Nymphs appear to be sweet maidens, however their actions are obviously can be harmful. And I think what makes them very fantastical is that they do not live among us as they dwell outside of cities and civilizations. They are a monster, again, because people are fearful of them because they can deceive and kill, and maidens especially do not want to become this monstrous being. And so that is my project, and I hope you enjoyed it.